Hey guys, and so for today, we will be cooking a ribeye steak along with some potatoes, some onions, some carrots, and some asparagus on the side. And so here, we're going to be rinsing and washing our ingredients. You always want to wash your vegetables, fruits, whatever, when you bring them home from the supermarket, the grocery. And so we have some ruby red potatoes with some golden potatoes and some carrots, and we're just rinsing them off. You really do want to get in there though and scrub them off as best as possible with your hands or with a sponge. And yeah, here we go with the potatoes. After we give them a rinse, after we wash them off, we have a good different size of potatoes, and we're just gonna want to cut them up into a good bite-sized portions. In the background, we have the ingredients we'll be using in this dish. We have garlic, rosemary, onion, butter, salt, Himalayan pink salt, and peppercorns. And so here, you're just going to want to cut the onion into good bite-sized portions. Good chunk-sized portions. And you're going to want to put all of this into a bowl or a plate dish that can go into the oven. And this is all going to go in there for about 20 minutes or so. And here, I think this is something that everybody should know. It's how to dice an onion. You're going to cut an onion in half and then put it to its side. And then just go down. Not all the way, but after you do the entire onion, you're going to flip it on its other side and just go down, and you're going to have these nice portions of diced onion for salsa, guacamole, pico de gallo, whatever you need it for. And then we get to our carrots. You're going to want to do the same thing as you did with the potatoes. Good bite-sized portions. And you're going to want to skin your carrots as well with a peeler. Just use your knife. You're going to get these chunks, and you're just going to put them in the same dish with the potatoes and the carrots. And we'll season them later with some salt and some oil. So you're just going to want to cut all your carrots into good sized portions. And we'll continue from here. Honestly, roasted vegetables just make the entire dish. So we're moving on to the herbs. We have some thyme, or is it thyme? I think it's thyme. Anyways, then we have some rosemary. I actually have some in my backyard. I could have just gone back there, but whatever. And we have some butter. You can use any butter. I just went with this one. I just honestly like the packaging. And so we're gonna pick the herbs from their stems, twigs, whatever. And we're gonna chop them up and we're gonna sprinkle them on our potatoes, onions, and carrots, and our ribeye as it cooks. And so the cool thing about this thyme is it comes in this little soil package thing, and it has its roots attached and everything, and it comes with little care instructions. So essentially, as you pick it, you chop it off, and more grows to replace it. So the thing with this, I found it easier if you actually cut off the stem and then pull from the top to the bottom. Everything comes off a lot easier versus pulling from the bottom up. And with the rosemary, you can do the same with some of the twigs, with some of the branches, stems. And this one was a little resilient, and that's fine. You're just gonna have to pluck off the little rosemary leaves. You're gonna pull off some of the brown parts, but that's fine. You can always dispose of those later. That way you don't add like a bitter, like earthy flavor, because rosemary on its own is already a very, very robust herb. And when I was younger, I would always combine rosemary and oregano, and I was like, oh my god, why is my food so earthy? So we're just getting the last of it. You want to treat all your ingredients with love. Make use of all of them. And so here we have all the little brown parts and like the little dead parts of the rosemary. I already tossed more to the side. And with this, with what looks like you just went to your front yard and pulled out of your front lawn, you're going to want to slowly start chopping it. And this is going to release the smell within the aromatics within the herbs themselves. And as you progress, you're going to find this rhythm. You're going to finally chop them down, and you're going to essentially bruise them, but not like bleed them. And you can tell when you bleed them, there's like this green residue left on your cutting board. And I kind of get there with this, but not so much. You can kind of see it. But yeah, you just want to bruise them and you're good to go. And from here, you're going to take your vegetables. And these, I had cooked last night, the previous night when I filmed this. And I ended up putting too much in one bowl. And so the vegetables ended up getting steamed versus them getting roasted. And so I just kind of put them to the side, and I decided if I put them in the oven again, they were already in there for 30 minutes the night before at 425. If I put them in there at 425 again for another 20 minutes, and I took them out halfway and I rotated them, I flipped them, they should come out nice and crunchy. And so here everything's ready, spaced out, everything's already oiled. You can use any oil except olive oil. You don't really want to use olive oil for this dish. And I'm using canola oil, which was that spray can. And here we set our oven to 21, so I have that minute to film this. Everything's ready to go, and like I said, we're going to take this out halfway, and we're going to top it off with some of those herbs, and we're going to put in some butter as well. But the butter doesn't go in until about like 3 to 4 minutes before everything's complete. And so here we sprinkle the herbs on top. And this is with, about 10 minutes, 9 minutes remaining. And here we're ready to start heating up our pan. You're going to want to heat up your pan for about 3 to 4 minutes before you add any oil. And this is prior to cooking your ribeye. And so here, we're going to take our pepper and we're just going to season it. You're going to want to put a good amount of seasoning on here. I know some of you are probably like, that's way too much pepper, or that's way too little pepper, but just go with what your taste buds prefer. And we're going to add some of the salt. You're going to want to add a good amount because the salt is what's going to give the top portion of the meat a good crust as it sears. You're going to want to press that in, just don't be afraid to rub it in. And you're going to want to make sure all of that seasoning is just worked up in there in the meat and in the fat. You're going to want a good ribeye with a good amount of fat on it, so that way as it cooks it holds together and just maintains the flavor of all that seasoning. And here in this crevice, you're going to want to add a good amount of seasoning. That way the inner portions also taste like something versus tasting like just bland meat. And so here I grind some salt into my hands and I just rub it into this crevice right here, and it should be good to go, and the flavor's just gonna get sealed in there. And there you have your seasoned piece of meat, just salt and pepper. That's all you need right now. Essentially, as you cook, you're gonna add some of the herbs, you're gonna add some butter, and you're gonna cook it on a pan. We're gonna add some oil. Like I said, you're gonna want to use anything but extra virgin olive oil. Extra virgin olive oil has a low smoking point, which means as the heat increases, it's gonna start smoking and start burning essentially. And so this is a vegetable oil with some canola oil. And you're gonna want to put the steak fat side down, essentially like that back part of the steak. And you're going to want to cook that for at least a minute or two. And you're just going to let that sear. And this is going to help lock in all the flavor when you drop it on its sides. Essentially, what searing does is it helps lock in all the juices, and it also caramelizes the sugars within the meat, which causes that browning, which helps enhance the flavor. You're only going to want to cook the steak for about 2.5 minutes on each side once you do put it down. And remember to raise the pan to get the bottom side. My stovetop is a little uneven, so the oil tends to run towards the top. And so here we lay down the steak, or the ribeye, I should say. And in the back portion that we were just searing, there you see a nice caramelization and a nice crust. And that's what you want. And so we're going to let this cook for 2.5 minutes. And I'm going to have to adjust the oil every once in a while. And here I am setting the timer. And so it's been 2.5 minutes. And we're going to flip this over. And you guys are going to see that nice caramelization, that crust. And this is why you want to put a good amount of salt, because the salt dries out the top portion of the meat, and so when you put it down on a hot skillet, it's gonna sear it to a nice crust and make it nice and marbled when you cut into it. And the 2.5 minutes is to get to a medium rare. And so before the 2.5 minutes are over, you're going to want to add some butter as the unfinished sear side starts to reach that seared point. You're going to add your herbs and your butter and let that cook in there for a bit. And you're going to want to grab a spoon and you're going to want to baste your meat, which is essentially where you use the juices within the pan, the oil, and in this case we added butter along with the meat juices. And whatever is released as it's cooked, we're going to scoop up with a spoon and we're going to put back into the ribeye. And this way it gets all the flavor that it's been releasing as it's cooking back into it, and it just enhances the flavor tenfold. This is a great dish to cook for yourself, for your SO, wife, husband, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever. And so here, just how we seared the fatty portion in the back, we're searing that front portion, and we're also adding some more of the juices back into the ribeye. I'm pretty sure at this point the spoon would be able to cut into the ribeye. So give that a good shake. Turn off the heat. And if you want, you can also add garlic. You don't have to chop it off. And if you're having difficulties peeling garlic and whatnot, a good way to release it from a shell is to just place it down and use a wooden spatula and just crush it out of its shell, and there you go. You have some crushed garlic ready to go. And here we have the rosemary, the garlic, and this was all on a piece of steak that had cooked the previous night, a sirloin steak. You can essentially cook these the same way. This one, as you can see, I had added the garlic and the rosemary and some butter, but I kind of left a little too long out before I'd cooked it, and so by the time I finished cooking it, it reached a little over medium rare. And so here we're back with the ribeye, and we're going to put it on some foil. We're going to put some juices back on it just to increase the flavor. And you want to wrap it in foil because it's only been about 5 minutes cooking, maybe 5.5 minutes. And the foil is going to help it continue cooking, but it's just going to help it rest as well. And this is what's going to allow it to reach that rare to medium rare wellness that you want. And so just wrap it and put it off to the side. Don't let anybody touch it. Don't let anybody unwrap it. Be like, hands off. And so here we have our vegetables ready to go. And as you can see, some of the potatoes are nice and roasted. They're going to have a crunchy texture. The carrots are nice and tender. And here we have the asparagus, which doesn't take too long to cook. And so you can put it in the same skillet or pan that you had cooked the meat in. This way it absorbs the flavor from the meat. You can also season as you go, as I did here with some salt and pepper. This way it enhances the flavor. You kind of want to season everything as you go when you cook, but just make sure you balance things out and don't over salt one thing, don't over pepper one thing. And so here we're going to cut the meat, and I'm pretty excited to do this. And so here we go. It just kind of falls apart. It's really tender at this point. And this is the kind of thing that you want as you cut into it. And as you can see, a lot of the juices that were in the foil just kind of bled around it. And as you cut into it, more of these juices will be released, but that's fine. And so all these little fatty morsels at the tips, those are like little explosions of flavor that have absorbed everything within the pan as it's cooked and as it has set to rest. So those are like the little treasures that you want, or at least that I prefer. And so you can really do anything with this. You can make tacos, burritos. You can make salads. Just make little teriyaki bowls, whatever you want. And so here we have the meat. It's medium rare, which is what I prefer. I know some of my friends prefer it to be rare. I have some friends who are like, I want it bleeding. So it's definitely up to your preference. 2.5 minutes on each side is well enough for a medium rare. So you guys go from there. And I cook it on medium high meat, which is medium high heat, which is about a 7 on my stove. We're going to combine everything with the vegetables, and this is what you get. A plate to impress your SO, your family, yourself even. Anybody can cook, you guys. Just don't be afraid to fail. Just try and have fun with it. I think that's the best thing you can do. Just have fun with anything that you do. And I just want to say thank you for watching this. Thank you for checking out my videos, to be honest. And just go ahead and give it a try. You're going to impress somebody. I think more importantly, you're going to impress yourself. And so thanks, guys. I appreciate each and every one of you. I hope you guys are taking care of yourselves. Stay hydrated, drink your water, and do the things you love. Do the things that make you satisfied. Take care, and peace out.